So here's a quick screencast to look at how to sort of attack a multiple choice question. This question was from our Middle Ages quiz, and this question is about comparing a certain circumstance, in this case feudalism in the Middle Ages, to similar circumstances in other periods of time. So the thing to think about here is what is like at the core of this first choice. What's the core understanding? The core understanding of feudalism is really the idea that there was these layers of mutual obligation and loyalty between different social classes. So once you figure that out, you say, okay, now I'm going to look through here to try to find layers of, we're going to try to find choices that speak to the same idea that there's a connection between different layers of social classes and their obligation to one another. So when I think about this, well, the Hellenic League, okay, now that there might have been obligation between different cities, but we're really not talking about social classes. So I would not consider this response to be accurate, because again, feudalism is about the layers of the social classes, meaning individual people, and this is about cities. So I'm taking that out. This one here, the Middle Kingdom in Egypt, there really wasn't any kind of reciprocal arrangement between social classes in Egypt. It was really a pharaoh and his subjects. So there wasn't a mutual obligation situation. Now one could say, well, maybe the obligation of the pharaoh was to, secure the inundation, but it really doesn't fit as well as here with feudalism. So then we're left with patron-client system in the Roman Republic and patron-client armies in Rome. Both of these are about systems of mutual obligation between different layers of the social hierarchy. The better answer really is C, because patron-client armies are about a general and then his soldiers. A is very close in the sense that it's about different layers of mutual obligation between patricians and plebeians, sometimes between wealthier plebeians and other plebeians. But feudalism, the core of the obligation between a lord and a vassal is a military one, and therefore this is a better choice. C is a better choice. So it's layers of social obligation and then a military obligation at that. So that one is a very, very tough one to slice between A and C. Looking at a different question, say all are true about Charlemagne except. Well, in this case here, what we're doing is we're saying, what are the characteristics of Charlemagne, basically? And you need to pick the one that does not fit or is not true about Charlemagne. And this is just sort of, to do this, you have to just sort of be able to recall how we described and defined Charlemagne. This one is less about determining relationships than it is simply about remembering and recalling what Charlemagne was all about. Hopefully we know that he was a Christian king. Hopefully that comes through loud and clear about Charlemagne. Maybe even number B or letter B, we know that that is true. So B and C we would throw out as not being possible choices. Encouraged and sponsored developments in the arts and literature. Happy to be crowned emperor by Pope Leo. One of the things we do remember about Charlemagne and his coronation by Pope Leo was that he was, at the very least, had mixed feelings about it, and quite likely was very angry about it. So in this case, all of these are true except this one. So what I did was I got rid of B and C because I knew those were true. And then I was left with A and D. And maybe I couldn't remember if A was true or not, but I knew that D was not true. I knew that it wasn't true. So then I could more confidently choose D, because really I'd already ruled out B and C. So it was really just choosing D over A. Here's another one. The best description of life of a monk in the monastery. Now this is descriptions about what monks had to do. Obedience, routine, and poverty were meant to liberate monks from worldly concerns. That I know is true. Is that the best description? Well, let's see. Monks were encouraged to explore and question ideas about their faith. They weren't really. They were encouraged to explore their faith and deepen their faith, but it wasn't about questioning. The beginning of St. Benedict's rules was about obedience to the faith. Monks contributed to the decision-making process in the monastery. Well, that really isn't true either, because we remember from St. Benedict's rules that the abbot was in charge of pretty much every aspect of things. So, D, a monastic life was seen as an excellent opportunity to climb the established social hierarchy. This you might think is true because, well, maybe you come into the monastery as a very poor monk and you sort of work your way up to abbot, and then maybe you could become a bishop. So we're left with B and D. Which is the best description? Well, between the two, this might be true. This definitely is true. So B is the better choice, right? Because we know we're quite confident that this is accurate from our reading, right? That we know that this is the sort of thing that monks were doing in order to better pursue a life of God. So we eliminate A and C because we know they're not true. D might be true, but B is almost certainly true, and in fact it is true, so we would choose B. So please come and see me to talk to me about any other questions you have about working with multiple choice questions.